Hey guys, thanks for joining me, and if you like what you see, please subscribe.
Hello, welcome to Sharp Ends. Today I'm going to share with you this knife that I really like a lot. It's a Hogue Deka 2 in Magnacut. I have done an unboxing of this video, and then I did a fix it up video where I took some of the basic problems that people complained about and I fixed it. And then I did another video where I actually changed out the scales to original goat aluminum scales, which added a whole nother level of coolness and greatness to it. And actually, then I did another video where I changed out the studs and I kind of just rambled on and talked about knife issues. This is my final video featuring the Hogue Deka Model 2 and Magnacut, and this is my review. So I've spent a lot of time with this knife. I wouldn't call it a budget knife. It comes in at around $130, so it's out of that range. But for a mid-price range and something that you can get Magnacut from, I think it has a lot of features that are really cool. I have upgraded it. I didn't like the plastic scale, so that's a definite negative. I also did not like the thumb studs, which I have replaced. The thumb studs were rather larger. Let's see if I can find the old ones. Well, I can't find them right now, but they were rather larger, and I didn't like them. Having switched out to the aluminum, it is heavier than the original model. That being said, this is still extraordinarily light. Ooh, that's grams. Let's change those units to something that makes more sense. So 2.8 ounces, so very, very light. And for those people who like proportions, 2.8 versus 3 inches of blade length. And of course, this is with the aluminum scales. The plastic scales are even lighter. And in fact, I would argue way too light. I really like this blade shape. They also have the drop point version, but this compound angle grind and the way you have two basic points, like you have a point here and a point here, so it's kind of a cross between a reversed Tonto and a Warrenclyffe, but it's got these two different planes and the way that it's ground. It just looks really nice. When I first got it, the action wasn't that great. I accidentally left it in my pants pocket and washed it, and then the action actually was working a lot better. And that might be because maybe they actually had some oil in here that created lock stick. I'm not sure, but I tore it apart and I cleaned the washers and I sanded the washers, which also helps the action a lot better, a lot more. And I oiled it up and did things like that. And then of course I changed these scales, which are milled out a little bit inside of here, and they create these pockets for the linings. The linings aren't full linings. I don't know if you can see or not, but they're short. They end right there. With the full linings, with the aluminum scales, it gives it a lot more rigidity. It's not going to bend in your hand. It feels a lot nicer. I think these OG scales are worth getting. Once you get the OG scales, and these are the plain ones, not ceramic, not coated. I think they do a ceramic coating on there, so you can get any color you want. The coatings cost extra. I got just the plain aluminum ones. I think it looks rather nice, almost tuxedo version with the black hardware and the white-ish scales. I think it just looks really nice. The clip I don't necessarily like, but it's not the worst thing in the world. One thing I will say for the original Goat is that they don't have like a little flat space here underneath the landing pad for the clip. Having said that, I don't find it too hard to get it in and out of my pocket either, but that will eventually wear down my pockets, so that might be another negative too. We're talking about these scales. I believe they cost me around the 60s. And then the knife itself, I think I got on a little bit of a sale. I got like for $125. So we're talking about $185 for this knife. Is that worth it? I think it's worth it, but I don't think it's a screaming deal or anything. I think it's a nice knife. I think there's a lot of other things in that price range, that $185 price range. You can get a fairly decent Spyderco for that kind of money. You can't necessarily get a bug out and use, you to get a really nice knife, you need to spend more than $200. But for this range between being not sub 100 and therefore a budget knife, or I guess less than 80 maybe is a budget knife these days, and not more than $180, which more than $180, $200, we're getting into more premium knives. This range here, which is right at the top of that mid-range, I think this is a decent deal and a good knife for what you get. And I like this diamond texturing on here. I think it works out real nicely. You can get a full grip here. You can hold it backwards with no problem. There's no real hot spots to speak of except for this spoon right here, maybe on your finger if you're going to be cutting all day. When you're cutting it in the forward position, it's very comfortable. It's got this extra big jimping on top of the OG scales, which the original scales that come with this do not have that. And in fact, the inside of the plastic of the black scale part was actually, I found, to be sharp, and was one of the reasons why I traded out. Here's one of the original scales. So one of the things I did, and you can go back and look at an older video, is I actually, when I took this apart, this is how it originally looked. And these are kind of flimsy, right? Just extruded plastic or something, right? I actually went in here and I sanded the edges around here because these edges were sharp when it came out of the box. But that was $120, $60 later. You've got this massive improvement. I would argue that these original goat scales actually upgrade this knife significantly and make it much more valuable. I think that the addition that this makes this knife more valuable than it just it makes it more than just a $60 edition. Like, you're getting a lot of value for that. I think you need to spend $70 to $80 to $85 to get different ceramic coatings, something like that, to make this, you know, a different color. Again, I think their plain ones are just fine, and I actually come to love it. Altogether, I think the knife looks really nice. I think it's a fair price for what you get, and I also like that it's Magnacut. The Magnacut, I think, is done really well. I think the heat treat on it is probably really well. The way that they laser etched this stuff on here is absolutely fine. This is also, I believe, USA made. So there's that to take into account. That's pretty cool. The bar lock is good. I actually don't like the bar locks too much in general. Like, I had a TRM Shadow for a while. I thought it was okay, but no banger. I like other Three Rivers better. And then I've also had the Bug Out. Didn't really ever like the bar lock too much. I mean, I'm not against it, but this bar lock for some reason really works for me, and I like it a lot. I like the action on it with the new thumb studs, especially, which only cost $7 from Amazon, and I got like bargain basement ones. Like, it just works really nicely. Something about the geometry where it's done, you know, you can open it with your thumb and your finger real easily, or just use the bar lock itself to open it, and it works really fine. But anyway, what I was getting at with the Magnacut and the lightness and everything like that, this is a perfect saltwater knife. This is a perfect knife to take fishing with you or on a boat. Nothing is ever going to rust on this. It doesn't matter if it's in the salt water or not. I mean, if you do take it on a long sailing trip, I would suggest that you clean it after a week or two, just to make sure that you don't have any oxidization in the washers or anything like that. These are phosphor bronze washers. So one thing that I would say is that, you know, at some point I might change the wash. The washers were pressed. If you go back and look at that video, you'll see that they were uneven. They were pressed with a machine. It made them kind of waffly, and the sanding of those washers made a big improvement. So in a way, you're going to put in some time into this knife. I think that if you're going to come out with a great product, if you're willing to put in the time and the effort into this, then I think you're going to get a great knife. However, if that does not interest you and you don't want to put in the time and the effort, then you should probably pass on this knife. But I enjoy working on knives, and when it comes out so nicely, I feel a little bit of ownership over it, and I just think it's pretty cool. So that's my recommendation. Get it if you like working on knives and you like toying around with things. And if you don't necessarily like those things, then maybe you should give this one a pass. I will definitely be keeping this in my collection. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. If you could like and subscribe, I'd also appreciate it. You can also find me on Instagram at Sharp Ends, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.